Welcome back to Green is Good, and we're leaving the wonderful warm climates of Stanford's campus in California, and now we're going over to the city of Chicago, and we've got Kevin Campbell on, who's the manager of fleet services for the city of Chicago's Department of Fleet and Facility Management. Welcome to Green is Good, Kevin Campbell.
Thank you, John.
Kevin, you know, you're in a very interesting position and you're doing great work out there. And that's why we were so thrilled to have you on today. And we're so proud to have you on today. But before we get into talking about the specifics of what you do and how you've transformed transportation in Chicago, can you share a little bit about your personal journey? Because people always want to know, how did this person get there? Sustainability is still so new in this world, and the environment and leadership in these important arenas. People want to know, how did this person end up there? So can you just share your journey to where you are today?
Sure. Well, I'm a lifelong Chicagoan, born and raised, and I studied engineering in college, and I actually worked as a design engineer for about 7 years before coming on with the city. But I always wanted to work for local government here. I feel it's an important position. I feel people can contribute and make the place they live in a little bit better, and that's what I've been trying to do.
That's so nice, and and we're so appreciative again to have you on, because these kind of stories, they should be a Kevin Campbell in every city across America doing the great work you're doing. So we're so thrilled to have you on. Talk a little bit about the background of the city of Chicago's fleet, and what type of vehicles and equipment did you begin working with, and how have you evolved them?
Sure. Well, our department provides for all the vehicle and equipment needs for the city's 30-plus other departments, which are our customers. Okay. And the largest of those are Streets and Sanitation, wow, the Police Department, and the Chicago Fire Department. We also service the Department of Water Management, the Department of Aviation fleets at both O'Hare and Midway airports, as well as sister agencies such as the Chicago Park District and the Chicago Transit Authority's fleet of service and support vehicles. So all told, we have over 3,000 police vehicles, 500 garbage trucks, 300 salt spreader trucks, 125 street sweepers, and over 100 ambulances. So the total fleet is well over 12,000 units, which includes purchased equipment, leases, and rentals.
You've got a huge fleet underneath you.
Yeah,
wow.
It's pretty big.
Wow. So talk a little bit about the policies that you've now started implementing to reduce. I mean, you have 12,000 vehicles you get to work with. That means when you make changes, you really get to move the needle, Kevin. And so
that's true.
Which is great. That's a very important role you're doing out there, and a very important, your leadership is so important. So what are you doing now to reduce vehicle emissions? How does that begin?
Well, we've been proactively taking measures to reduce our emissions profile for many years. As you know, John, motor vehicles account for nearly half of air pollutants, so anything we can do to reduce our output is pursued aggressively. Starting in the early 2000s, when I first came on, we installed diesel oxidation catalysts onto over 100 of our vehicles, and this cuts nitrogen-oxide emissions by over 80%. We also switched to ultra-low sulfur diesel fuel well ahead of it being mandated by the EPA. And along with this, we implemented a diesel particulate filter retrofit program, which reduces by 98% the amount of soot that our trucks release. And we've been aggressively working to retire our older units and replace them with newer vehicles, which now come with this technology direct from the factory.
Gotcha.
And in addition, we've implemented an idle reduction policy, which prohibits idling for more than 5 minutes in any city vehicle, and we've installed devices which automatically shut down the engine of any vehicle that's left idling.
Got it. And when it comes to vehicles, I don't know that much, but I hear, with regards to sustainability and good environmental stewardship, I hear a lot of buzzwords. I hear the words downsizing, right-sizing, replacement cycles. Can you help ferret that out for our listeners out there? What does that mean, and how do you apply any or some of those terms to what you do?
Sure. And, these concepts, they go a long way towards reducing emissions. Downsizing a fleet requires analyzing the usage profiles and determining the minimum number of vehicles needed by each work group in order to complete their assigned tasks. And then the excess older vehicles are then retired from the fleet, resulting in reduced emissions. Now, right-sizing refers to providing the smallest, most fuel-efficient vehicle that is suitable for each application. So, taking an administrative employee out of an SUV and putting them into a Prius is a good example. Now, of course, if a work crew needs a pickup truck,
right,
we don't want to jeopardize their productivity, but if a downsized truck will work for them just as well as a big diesel, that's a change we're going to want to look at.
So do you have a team that's constantly assessing the right size of a vehicle for the needs of the participant?
We absolutely do. Whenever we're looking to replace a vehicle, we determine the work that's being performed, and we try and get them into the smallest vehicle that'll work for them.
That is so interesting. What about managed competition? Is there something that you're working on that relates to core competencies and managed competition out there?
Yep. Well, managed competition, it's definitely a focal point with our new administration, and we've been diligently working to determine which areas we're most cost-effective in, and then we make sure we stay that way. And in the areas where we're not competitive, we then analyze them to determine, can we become cost-effective? And if not, it's our responsibility as taxpayers to make sure they're getting their value. So we need to either, take a hard look at how we can get better, or if the opportunity is there to partner with an outside agency or service that can provide that at a lower cost and a higher quality, then we really need to look at that and make that move.
Kevin, is there, for myself and for our listeners out there, it's just fascinating what you're doing, and the importance of what you're doing is immeasurable. Are there Kevin Campbells in other great cities like New York, Miami, Philadelphia, Los Angeles? And do you have an organization, informal or formal, and you're sharing best practices?
Absolutely. There are several fleet organizations. 100 Best Fleets is one example. There's also an agency called NAFA, and then the American Public Works Association has a fleet group as well. And I will say the fleet group nationwide, it's really very well connected. It's very helpful. It's something where I'm getting calls on a regular basis from other fleets, and then I'm also reaching out on a regular basis as well, trying to figure out what's working and how can we improve our operation.
Is yours one of the biggest fleets in the nation that you manage?
It's certainly one of the 10 biggest fleets. New York, Los Angeles have large fleets as well.
Right.
But we're certainly up there.
For our listeners who just joined us here on SiriusXM, America's Talk Channel, we're honored to have Kevin Campbell on today. He's the manager of fleet services for the city of Chicago. And for those who want to learn more about Kevin's great work and the other great work that's going on in sustainability under Mayor Rahm Emanuel, you can look at www.cityofchicago.org. Kevin, you're a humble guy. I could just tell the way you talk and how you you lay this all out. But you're not only the manager of fleet services for the city of Chicago. I want you to just take a little segue here in this discussion of all the great work you do there and talk about your engineering side, your invention side, your entrepreneurial side. You also hold several patents for consumer and automotive products.
Well, that goes back to my time working in the engineering field. I was in the automotive and consumer products field, and it's one of the nice things about working on product development is when it comes time to issue that product, they want to make sure and recognize all the inventors. So, I was lucky enough to get named as the inventor on several of the products that I had worked on in my previous life.
But that, knowing as an entrepreneur myself, I know once you have that bug and that's your DNA, how to figure things out and how to make a better mousetrap, that I have to believe that has to be a benefit in your role in the city of Chicago and how to make things always better and how to reinvent and recreate what was once working, which now in modern times needs to be readjusted. I believe your DNA and your mindset gets to benefit the city of Chicago in readjusting the fleets.
Well, absolutely. It's a very interesting part of the job is that we can start from scratch on any of these projects and figure out, if there's a better way to put it together. We work directly with the manufacturers, and that background in product design has certainly helped me to do that.
That is awesome. There's a concept out there that I'm not familiar with, but I'd love you to tell our listeners about. It's called newer and fewer. Newer, fewer. What does that mean, newer, fewer?
Sure. Well, actually, it's something that a lot of people are familiar with. It's just they haven't heard it conceptualized like that. And the whole idea is just to get on an accelerated replacement schedule.
Right.
So you can shrink the overall size of your fleet by making sure that all the vehicles within it are more reliable. And it's something that rental car companies do. You rarely get a rental car that's more than a couple years old because they're always turning those around. They want to make sure they're always running. So by applying that same newer, fewer concept to areas like garbage trucks, where we currently have a significant spare pool to cover for breakdowns in older vehicles, we can then reduce our overall fleet size, increase our reliability, and then we can reduce our emissions profile by getting rid of those older vehicles, and all at the same time we're saving money.
Got it. Do you in Chicago, is alternative or electric vehicles or alternative fuels a big thing yet for you?
Definitely is. Yep, we're running 3 types of alternative fuels right now: ethanol, natural gas, and biodiesel. And we're using over 1 million gallons of ethanol every year. This is displacing over a quarter of our gasoline usage, and our CNG usage is around 50,000 gallon equivalents every year and growing. And our diesel fuel, we have a 2% biodiesel blend in there. So altogether, our alternative fuel accounts for almost 1/3 of our total fuel usage.
And is electric vehicles also becoming popular yet in Chicago?
Definitely. We have electric vehicles. We deployed 5 Nissan Leaf sedans in 2011. We followed those up with some of the new Ford Focus all-electric sedans, and those are also being very effectively deployed by several departments.
You know more about vehicles than most anyone I could ever meet. And for our listeners out there, that's a huge benefit, including myself, who doesn't know much about cars except they just want to get in them and make sure they go. What, in this state-of-the-art world that we live in now in 2013, Kevin, what should people be looking for in terms of if they want to live, in their community and with their family, live a more sustainable lifestyle? What kind of vehicle, in terms of the fuel it runs on, should people be looking to buy or lease right now?
Well, I definitely have a high-tech recommendation, which would be electric vehicles. I really think they're finally, here to stay. I don't think it's just a trend.
Okay.
And, I know a lot of people are nervous about an electric vehicle with the range. It's called range anxiety.
Yeah.
Am I going to be able to get home?
Range anxiety.
And it's a real thing. So, we're working diligently to deploy more infrastructure so you can recharge when you're at the mall, for example.
Right.
But, a lot of households, they say almost 50% are two-vehicle households.
Right.
So what I would recommend is if people could consider replacing just one of their vehicles with an electric vehicle, that would be then their commuting and short-trip vehicle.
Right.
They could still have their vacation and long-trip vehicle, and if that mix could be implemented by a few, million households, the difference would just be huge. But I also do have a low-tech suggestion as well, and that's cycling.
Huh.
I really think bicycles are making a big comeback here, and it's a continuing trend. And actually, our Department of Transportation is converting over 500 miles of vehicle lanes to bike lanes, and that's going to be done here by 2020. So, besides your 2 feet, there are, few greener forms of transportation than a bicycle.
That's really good. Now, let's go back to the electric vehicles, though. What is the city of Chicago's experience with the electric vehicles, and then talk a little bit about more where you're going to be taking it in the years ahead.
Sure. Well, so the light duty, it's looking pretty good. We want to keep growing that light duty electric fleet, but we're also looking to, kind of be early adopters of heavy truck electric vehicles. And to that end, we're working to build now the first all-electric garbage truck in North America, and that should be coming online here around the end of the year. And if we can help push that technology so that electric vehicles become cost-effective in the truck arena, then I think that's really going to go a long way towards helping to continue to reduce emissions.
And you talked about encouraging the driving of electric vehicles by helping people get over that whole, as you point out, I never heard that term, but it's a very relevant term, range anxiety. Mm-hmm. Getting them over that, does that mean the city of Chicago and other cities are setting up more infrastructure so electric car owners can plug in?
Absolutely. So the city's working with businesses to make sure if they're putting in parking that they're allocating a certain number towards electric vehicles. And then also with the parking garages downtown, all of the parking garages have to have a certain number of spots, and incidentally, they're usually premium spots, very close to the ground floor, very close to the elevator, so that we're encouraging people. Then if they pull into that parking garage with an electric vehicle, they get free electricity during their stay.
Oh, way, that's just wonderful. And that's just going to continue to grow, you believe? The proliferation of those opportunities is just going to continue to grow in Chicago.
I really do. I mean, household charging, if someone has a garage, that's, pretty easy to implement. They just need to figure out, at this point, the street, how people are going to be able to charge on street parking. But I certainly think there's a lot of technologies out that are going to assist with that implementation.
I'm sitting here in Manhattan today, Kevin, and I know Mayor Bloomberg has installed more bike lanes and more biking opportunities. As you just pointed out, the opportunities to bike. How about in the city of Chicago? Is that something you and the mayor have been working on in the city of Chicago, more biking opportunities and creating, again, more biker-friendly areas in Chicago?
I was fortunate enough to attend the Sustainable Operations Summit in Manhattan last year.
Okay.
And actually, President Clinton was one of the speakers there as well. And I came back just, so full of so many ideas that we could implement here. And it was just, one of those great networking events to see how sustainability not only applies to fleets, but just to so many other different areas. So it was really an eye-opener for me, and we've used that momentum to try and implement, a lot of these programs that New York and a lot of other cities are working on.
With regards to bicycles and segways and other great things.
Right.
We're down to the last couple minutes here, Kevin. Talk a little bit about the importance of car sharing and how have you implemented that in the city of Chicago?
Sure. Well, we actually offer both car sharing, where we've partnered with an outside party to use their vehicles at an hourly rate during the workday. And then we also have a carpooling program where we take our own vehicles and we make them available for longer trips. And both of these systems use online reservation programs. And we found that each shared or pooled vehicle can replace up to 5 assigned units. So as you can imagine, we're very aggressively working to expand both of these programs. And the great thing about the car sharing program is the same vehicles that city employees are using during the workday, they are now being used by the general public in the evenings and weekends. So it's really working out to be a great program.
Wow. That is just awesome. I want you to share two or three more things. Kevin, there's a lot of young people out there that want to have the ability to make a difference like Kevin Campbell. They want to be the next Kevin Campbell. Give them a little bit of, some of your pearls of wisdom. The young college students and high school students that listen to the show always write in, and they want to try to figure out what path do I have to take to be the next Kevin Campbell. Can you share that with our listeners?
Sure. I have 3 young children, and I'm so pleased to see that schools are now concentrating on what they're calling here in Chicago STEM, science, technology, engineering, and math. And I really do feel that no matter what field you end up going into, if you can pick, from those areas, at least from my personal experience, they can be applicable no matter where you end up. So, my personal recommendation is if you have an interest in one of those fields, to definitely pursue it, because there's just really no saying where it can take you.
And last but not least, last 30 seconds or so, what can people do to minimize their own vehicle emissions?
Yep. Well, it goes back to a lot of those common sense things. Walk when you can. Take public transportation. If you must drive a vehicle, select the smallest one that meets your needs. The whole concept of new urbanism, which I think is really great. And some people ask me, what is new urbanism? I tell them to picture the set of Sesame Street. It's a bunch of apartments, businesses, parks, walkable neighborhoods. And, the closer you live to your workplace over a span of decades, that's just by that one small decision, you're going to be reducing your emissions profile significantly.
Kevin, the world would be a better place if we had more Kevin Campbells. For sure, this country would be a better place. And I want to thank you for joining us. You're always welcome back on Green is Good. Kevin Campbell, please go look at his great work and the mayor's great work at thecityofchicago.org. Kevin Campbell, you are a sustainability superstar and truly living proof that green is good.
Thank you very much, John.